Roman and I were coaching in North Carolina, and we met here. We're from here, and then his mom was sick. His mom had a heart transplant and was starting to get towards where she wasn't feeling great, and he's an only child. So we knew we wanted to come back to Minnesota. And then the timing, all God's timing worked out that it was when Rod was leaving, and Carolyn Cavisto was on the team at Bethel that year. And so when Rod resigned, she knew I was coming back to Minnesota. She was going to be a junior, and she called me and she said, "We're looking for a softball coach." So she had played for me in club ball a few years prior to that. And so then we just started investigating Bethel and learning about Bethel a little bit more. And then it was really intriguing. And here we are 10 years later. The rings are cool. The championships are really cool. Taking the program to new heights, things that have never happened before with Bethel softball. But I think just the highlight is the day-to-day grind that we get to do with our athletes. And then, like this Friday, I'm going to a wedding of one of our athletes. And so getting to see them now further in their careers and becoming wives and mothers, and just how they're succeeding, and then getting the little notes like, Bethel, because I played softball at Bethel, these things are better, and I know these things, and I'm more successful because of these things. So one thing that whenever I saw that, the first thing was I was the quarantine and isolation coordinator during COVID for Bethel. And so that was the one that really stood out, of just because I met a lot of people that I never knew, because we kind of in our own little athletics tunnel down there. But so that was one of the things. I've also taught a class a couple times. And then I'm teaching again this year. I'm teaching well-being, and then just simple things with the athletic department, the game manager, student athletic advisory committee. And then I'm also on the care and conduct team with Student Life. Inside of Bethel, the person that comes to mind the most is Gretchen Hunt. She's our volleyball coach here. She was one of the few women in our department when I was hired, and just the way that she processes knowledge, understands knowledge, handle things. Gretchen and I have a lot of the same values, but very different personalities and very different ways that we approach things. And so it's just so intriguing to talk to her and get to know what she does, and see how we can all be better, because we're all better because of Gretchen, everyone in the athletic department. So in Bethel, Gretchen is definitely the highest on my list. But in life, my mom, because, thinking about athletics and groundbreaking women, she played softball and basketball in college before Title IX. She graduated in May, and Title IX was passed in June that year. And so having her stories and learning about her athletic career and her successes, and she actually comes and talks to our team every year, and talking about how we still have a long way to go for women, but let me tell you how it was before there were laws. And so that was really important. And then she was the only advanced math teacher in my high school. And so she did so much to promote women in mathematics careers, and took us to Iowa State for special women's days and things like that. So it's just, she's incredible. And it has never seemed odd to me to keep pushing barriers, because that's how I was raised. We talk about the lessons that we get from sports, and the sport doesn't really teach the lesson. It's the vehicle. But it's, teamwork. It's learning to work with people that you wouldn't be friends with in the hallway. And a lot of leadership skills. Softball, all sports, but softball, we talk a lot about failure, coming back from failure, because you fail more than you succeed, and you're still an All-American. And so that's a really big thing. But then, too, I think it helps women find their voice. I think it helps redefine beauty a little bit in the ways that we see beauty, that it's not, that there's something beautiful about being strong and powerful, and you can still be feminine while you do that. And then just figuring out that we're all created for different purposes and in different ways, and you can have really, really different people working for the same goal, which at the end of the day, like, that's the kingdom of God too. So that correlation. There's many times that I'm frustrated, and there's many times that I feel like the anecdotal thing of I have to say things 3 times, where someone sitting next to me says it one time and, oh, that's a great idea. And I feel like that happens a lot. And then specifically, again, with living with Roman, who's my assistant coach and my husband, and the crossover of so many things. Like, we were discussing this in our first year, a lot of the umpires around the league and a lot of the other coaches, they knew who we hired, but they would automatically go talk to him because he was there, as opposed to that, I'm the head coach. I'm the one that's listed. So that was that stood out a lot. It has happened to me before in previous coaching, but it was a little bit more pronounced there. And then there's just been some things with our team too, where we need other areas and other people to help us with whatever on the field, or do something where Roman and I are both in communication with them, just the nature of our jobs. And I'll say something, and then Roman will say something, and then it gets done or changed or different. So, that's the really surface part of it, but it's still pretty evident. And again, these are really well-intentioned people who I don't even know that they realize that they're doing it. So I think the gap of what it is a little bit unusual. The reality is we haven't had very many coaches leave in those 10 years. And so, we're not going to just replace someone who just because. So there's a little bit of, okay, I can get behind this and defend it. And there's a little bit of, it's still a pretty big gap. I think the biggest thing that we notice is specifically with our alumni, and when we're looking at building relationships and donors and things like that missing 10, 15 years is, kind of the sweet spot too. So I think that we really notice it in that. It's been fun. I've been able to meet the first coach here at Bethel. There's another woman who coached with her husband here at Bethel. So there's been some really, really good things as well. But yeah, it still feels like we're running up against obstacles. And one of them specifically is, even when they brought softball back, they didn't have a field. And then when we do have the field, we're overlapping with soccer. And so the sharing facilities, and when, the baseball team doesn't have to, quite frankly. I don't think that that's a secret, so I shouldn't be shy about saying that. But that definitely, that in and of itself makes an impact. And I think it also makes a statement to our women. And so I've been pushing really hard, and I thought I would be a little further along in 10 years, but not yet. Well, I'll go back a little bit further. So after teaching, I ran a facility for softball and baseball, and I was the only woman there. And then I worked at 3M for a while, and I worked in industrial business. And then, as a math teacher, even though it was only 20 years ago, there were very decidedly less females who were teaching math. Now, teaching as a profession, there's more females, but specifically math teachers, it was more male dominated. So it's one of those things where it's just, I think, when we get used to something, we kind of don't notice as much anymore. And so I'm trying to continue to notice, because I still want progress. But, in the professional league, it's different because we're paying women to play sports. And so the amount that we're trying to elevate with that that's the whole purpose, is we're trying to elevate women and elevate women's sports. So then women's opinions and thoughts are listened to, and there's still men in it, and there needs to be, and they're really great. And I would say the majority of people, it's for the right purposes, and then other people, it's for ego and money. But that's true of everything. As far as at church and other places, I kind of kind of have a pretty strong personality. And I think we all have to be coaches. If you don't have a strong personality, it's probably not the right profession. But even though I am aware and I do feel like there's different ways that I have to be heard, or I have to be more creative in the way I say things or approach things, I still feel as though I'm seen and heard. Yeah, I think, my first year I was hired in September and kind of at the end of September, so it was October, and just jumping in, and I had no idea what I didn't know. And then we had this team that was already here and great, and just needed, I don't know, just a fresh set of eyes, I think, is the only difference. That I fully believe that if Rod were still here, they still would have won conference. But I remember at the golf tournament that year, Bob Bjorklund was up there and speaking, and he's like, "Yeah, Penny just shows up and wins the conference tournament, and she thinks it's easy," and just teasing. And then now where the program has come and how far we've come, and just reflecting on how hard it is, and how many moving parts there are in sports, and then within the university, and the way and the support that we've gotten from fans, and the streaming. We were a streaming guinea pig, and the streaming is beautiful. And I get so many emails from fans and relatives of the athletes that say, "Oh, it's so exciting to watch games now." And so having people support us in that way, and kind of having us be the front runner in that, is just really, really sweet. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention both Ross and Annie showing up to the games. Annie will pop into the dugouts. We invite her in because the girls all love her, and it's just been really, really fun. And Ross is really supportive too. And then this year we got invited to a special tournament in Georgia, and it's invites of top 25 teams and that kind of thing. And the tournament's really only every other year, so having the invite alone was really special. But then at homecoming, I was telling Jeannie Osgood about it, and she said, "Well, do you need a driver?" And I was like, "Actually, we do need another van driver." Because again, these are D3 things, because we can't just charter a bus for 6 days and all that. So we're driving minivans from the airport. And she came with us, and then the way that she has uplifted and supported the women too it's been really fun to witness this year. One, I hope we continue to grow, because I think that what Bethel does for students, I know that cost is always a big deal, and money, and we have to be worried about it, because otherwise we can't be here. But I think that the value of what students get at Bethel, because of the way that the people love them, is just so unique and special, that even while I've been here and gone to other places and seen, it just keeps drawing me back, because I think it's really, really unique, and I would love for more people to be able to see that. And obviously, we all know that it's the Christ-centered community that brings that forward, but that's why I want more people to experience this, because it really is a special place.